The world isn't short of beautiful women, but the ones who are self-aware, deeply grounded, and quietly powerful, they're the ones who leave a mark. In a world saturated with curated beauty and noise, it's easy to believe that being seen is the same as being remembered. But real presence isn't loud. It doesn't scream for attention. It's felt in the calm confidence of a woman who knows who she is, in the quiet strength of someone who's walked through fire and comes out softer, not harder. True power doesn't demand the spotlight. It commands respect through stillness, clarity, and grace. Life moves quickly. Between career pressures, relationships, family responsibilities, and the relentless expectations of society, we, women, often lose touch with ourselves. We're taught to keep going, to take care of everything and everyone, to measure our worth by how much we give, even when there's nothing left. In the midst of this chaos, it becomes so easy to forget the things that truly matter, but wise women don't. Wise women pay attention not just to what's loud and obvious, but to what's quiet, subtle, and easily overlooked. They see patterns. They learn from the seemingly ordinary. They turn heartbreak into healing, confusion into clarity, and survival into strength. They don't chase meaning, they create it in the way they live, love, and show up for themselves and others. Today, I want to share 6 powerful and deeply personal rules that wise women carry with them, not just as beliefs, but as ways of being. These are not lessons from a classroom. They're truths born out of heartbreak, growth, silence, and resilience. They're the kind of wisdom that only emerges when a woman has lost herself and then found her way back, stronger and softer at the same time. The way a woman treats herself sets the tone for how others will treat her. When self-neglect becomes a habit, it creates space for others to do the same. When boundaries are blurred to make room for someone else's comfort, it often leads to self-abandonment. And in that space of constantly giving without receiving, something precious begins to disappear, her own essence. Loving oneself is not about spa days, selfies, or indulgent weekends, though those things may help. It is about emotional accountability. It is about saying no, even when saying yes would be easier. It is walking away from anything or anyone that crosses the line of respect. It is allowing room to rest when exhausted, to feel without shame, and to heal without seeking permission. It is not glamorous. It is not always visible. In fact, it is often done in silence, behind closed doors and lonely nights and the rawness of real emotion. Yet from that silence emerges strength. The kind of strength that builds not just confidence, but wholeness that doesn't beg to be filled. A woman rooted in herself becomes magnetic not because she's trying to be, but because she radiates something rare, self-containment. There was once a woman who looked back on a long relationship, not with bitterness, but with clarity. She didn't regret the love or even the loss. What she regretted most was how little she had respected herself during those years. She had given everything until there was nothing left to give, no identity, no space, no voice. That realization didn't break her. It woke her up. Women who are wise don't wait for someone to rescue them. They do not cast themselves as victims in their own lives. They become the ones who hold space for their own healing, even if no one else understands. From that place of clarity and compassion, they create a foundation so strong that only love built on mutual respect can find a place there. Because when a woman loves herself with consistency, not performance, she teaches the world how she expects to be treated. And the ones who truly see her will rise to meet her where she stands, not drag her down to be understood. Rule 2, giving love doesn't mean losing yourself. From a young age, many women are taught, explicitly or quietly, that love is synonymous with sacrifice. That being loving means being patient, endlessly forgiving, endlessly understanding. That the more one gives, the more worthy one becomes. And in this conditioned belief, countless women shrink themselves in the name of love. There is a dangerous idea embedded in many cultural and romantic narratives that to love well is to endure endlessly, to bend so others don't break, to make peace even when the soul feels unrest. And so, generation after generation, women learn to associate selflessness with virtue and silence with strength. But real love does not ask for disappearance. It does not demand silence in the face of hurt. It does not expect one person to carry the emotional weight of an entire relationship. In fact, love that requires a woman to abandon her boundaries, her voice, or her sense of worth is not love. It is an emotional imbalance, often masked as devotion. In truly reciprocal love, both people are seen, both people are nourished, and both are allowed to be whole, not halves seeking completion, but individuals choosing connection. A healthy love does not punish honesty. It does not confuse compliance with loyalty. It does not require a woman to be less of herself in order to be accepted. There are countless silent stories of women who stay far too long in one-sided relationships, hoping that more effort, more compromise, more self-denial would eventually earn them the love they deserve. But time has a way of revealing the truth, and one day, many come to the quiet realization. The more they gave, the more invisible they became, even to themselves. A wise woman understands the subtle difference between giving and overgiving, between being generous and being depleted. She recognizes that love cannot be sustained if only one heart is doing the emotional labor. She knows when to nurture connection and when to retreat in order to preserve her own center. Protecting the relationship with oneself is not selfish. It is essential, because from that inner alignment comes clarity, what to accept, what to reject, and when to walk away. A woman who knows her worth does not negotiate it for temporary affection. She does not stay simply because she's afraid to leave. She does not give endlessly in hopes of being enough. She gives from fullness, not from fear. And when a woman learns to hold herself gently, wisely, without apology, she no longer seeks love to complete her. She seeks love that reflects her. Rule 3. No one owes you happiness. Accept yourself. In a world that constantly sells happiness like a product, it's easy to believe that fulfillment lies somewhere outside of the self. That joy is something to be unlocked through a perfect relationship, a dream job, a flattering mirror, or the approval of others. From a young age, many women are taught to chase happiness, not to build it. To find it in romantic milestones, and being chosen, and being praised. But the truth is, happiness that depends on external validation is as fragile as the mood of the person giving it. No one else is responsible for another person's peace. No one can love deeply enough, affirm often enough, or stay long enough to compensate for the emptiness that forms when someone abandons their own responsibility. Waiting for someone to come along and make life feel whole is not only disempowering, it's a trap. Because when happiness is outsourced, it becomes conditional. Conditional on someone's presence, someone's attention, someone's ability to meet needs they may never fully understand. Women who live wisely understand this truth at the core. Joy is self-generated. Not because life is perfect, but because they choose to participate in their own healing. They don't delay joy until someone asks them out, notices them, or makes them feel seen. They don't wait to feel beautiful until someone says the words out loud. Instead, they learn to create moments of meaning with or without an audience. It's not always easy. Society often finds ways to label women who prioritize themselves as too independent, too strong, too much. But those labels are often a reflection of discomfort, not truth. Because there is something deeply powerful about a woman who doesn't wait for permission to live fully, who takes herself on a solo adventure, who eats alone in a cafe with her head held high, who finds joy in the little things, the scent of a morning coffee, the rhythm of a walk, the beauty of her own quiet company. Stories abound of women who rediscovered themselves in solitude, after a breakup, a loss, a burnout. And in those quiet spaces, away from the noise of expectations, something profound happened. They laughed, not for anyone else's amusement, but from a genuine place of lightness. They healed, not because someone fixed them, but because they finally stopped running from themselves. And in that stillness, they realized the love they were chasing from the world was the love they had been withholding from themselves. The most sacred journey a woman can take is the one that leads her home, not to a person, not to a place, but to the deep, steady presence within her. When she stops outsourcing her happiness and starts cultivating it, the game changes. She no longer begs for joy. She becomes the source of it. That kind of woman doesn't just glow. She radiates. Rule 4, trying harder isn't always the answer. From childhood, many women are raised with one sacred instruction. Try harder. Be more patient. Be more accommodating. Be more forgiving. Stay longer, give more. Smile through it. Endure. This message, repeated over time, becomes a belief. The effort is the solution to every problem. That if something hurts, the answer is to give even more of oneself until it stops. But here's the quiet truth that often comes too late. Sometimes trying harder is not the solution. It's the trap. No amount of determination can save a situation that isn't aligned with a person's worth. One can pour every drop of energy into a job that slowly eats away at her soul, yet still feel empty at the end of each day. One can love another with unwavering devotion, meet every need, carry every emotional weight, and still be left feeling invisible. And it's not because she wasn't enough. It's because some things, no matter how much is invested in them, were never meant to be held onto. There's a deep grief that comes from realizing that hard work doesn't always yield harmony. That love doesn't always change people. That loyalty isn't always reciprocated. But there's also wisdom in that grief. The kind of wisdom that transforms endurance into discernment. It takes courage to try. But it takes even greater courage to recognize when something no longer deserves effort. To walk away not because of failure, but because of self-respect. Because a woman who keeps pouring into something that only drains her will eventually have nothing left for herself. There are stories of women who stayed in environments that slowly dulled their spirit, jobs that demanded their time but dismissed their voice. Relationships that consumed their energy but never offered refuge. Many stayed because they were told that quitting is a weakness, that leaving is failure. But in truth, walking away from what harms the soul is one of the most powerful forms of self-trust. There was once a woman who spent every lunch break in the restroom, crying silently so no one would notice. The job paid well. The title looked impressive. But the cost was too high. Her mental health, her joy, her sense of self. When she finally left, people called her reckless, ungrateful. But 2 years later, she was thriving. Not because life magically became easier, but because she finally stopped trying to fix something that was never meant to fit. Wise women know that staying isn't always strength, and leaving isn't always weakness. They know that peace is not earned through relentless performance, but through alignment. And they understand that trying harder is only noble when the path is worthy of the effort. Because the truth is, not every battle is yours to fight. Not every space is meant to hold you. And not every door should be kept open just because it once let you in. Letting go, when done from a place of clarity, is not giving up. It is choosing to live. Rule 5. Comparison is the enemy of confidence. Comparison is one of the oldest habits in human nature and also one of the most destructive. It often begins subtly. A glance, a thought, a quiet discomfort rising in the chest while scrolling through someone else's seemingly perfect life. A body that looks more sculpted. A relationship that seems effortlessly affectionate. A job announcement, a milestone, a shiny moment. And suddenly, without even realizing it, self-worth begins to shrink. Not because something is wrong, but because someone else seems to be doing it better. In today's world, this habit is amplified like never before. Social media creates an illusion of proximity to other people's lives, while hiding the mess behind the curtain. What's shown is rarely the whole truth, only the highlights. The joy is filtered. The pain is cropped out. And yet, the mind compares it to the unfiltered reality of everyday life. It's a game that no one wins. Many women fall into this trap without meaning to. One moment, they're feeling content. Next, they're questioning their worth because someone else seems to be doing more, looking better, living louder. But smart women know that comparison is not a path to growth. It's a detour away from the self. It's like watering someone else's garden while letting your own wither. No matter how lush their flowers seem, if your roots aren't nourished, nothing will bloom. And the truth is, everyone blooms in their own season. One woman may be in a season of visibility and harvest, while another is in a quiet phase of planting, growing underground, unseen, but no less valuable. Time has its own rhythm for everyone. The timeline of life is not linear, nor is it fair to measure one person's chapter 2 against another's chapter 20. Pain, joy, struggle, and triumph unfold at different paces. And the only timeline that matters is the one aligned with authenticity. There's a story of a woman who seemed to have it all online. The partner, the success, the glow. Her pictures received thousands of likes, and strangers often called her goals. But in a moment of truth, she once confessed that most nights before those perfect pictures were posted, she cried herself to sleep. That nothing felt real. Behind the aesthetics, she was falling apart. That story is not rare, it's simply hidden. And it's a reminder that what we see is not always what is. Image is not true. Performance is not peace. And admiration from others means nothing if it comes at the cost of abandoning the self. Confidence. The real kind isn't built by trying to keep up. It's built in the quiet, consistent practice of self-connection, of choosing to listen inward instead of outward, of valuing one's own progress, no matter how slow, of celebrating small victories, even if no one claps, of trusting the unseen growth that happens in the soil before anything breaks the surface. A woman who walks her path without needing to compete is a woman who has come home to herself. And that kind of woman doesn't need comparison to feel worthy, because she knows her value isn't measured against anyone else's. It's measured by how deeply she honors her own becoming. Rule 6. Knowing when to stay silent is a form of wisdom. We live in a world that pressures us to speak, respond, explain, and defend ourselves constantly. But there is a quiet power in choosing silence, not the kind that comes from fear, but the kind that comes from self-respect. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not every situation needs your reaction. And not every misunderstanding needs your clarification. Smart women know how to pick their battles. They know when speaking is empowering and when silence is sacred. One of the most powerful women I've ever met once said to me, when they tried to twist my words, I didn't defend myself. I let the truth speak over time. That takes strength. That takes trust in yourself. Sometimes your silence isn't a lack of courage. It's your way of saying, I don't know when you want a performance. I owe myself peace. Final reflections. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You don't need to have it all figured out. All you need is to be present in your own life. To wake up each day and choose yourself again and again. So many of us spend our lives chasing an ideal of perfection, success, or approval from others. But smart women know that perfection isn't the goal. Presence is. To truly be present in your own life means to embrace your own journey, flaws and all. It means choosing yourself, even on days when it feels easier to choose someone else or conform to expectations. It means allowing yourself to show up as you are, without the need for validation or external applause. Smart women don't chase approval, they chase alignment. They align themselves with what feels true to their core, even if it means standing apart from the crowd. They don't fear being alone, they fear being disconnected from themselves. It's not loneliness they fear. It's the emptiness that comes from sacrificing their authenticity for the sake of fitting in. They trust their inner compass, knowing that being true to themselves is the greatest gift they can give to the world and to themselves. They don't settle for noise. They seek meaning. In a world filled with distractions, chaos, and constant demands, they carve out space for quiet reflection, for stillness. They seek depth over shallow validation, connection over approval, purpose over praise. They know that their worth isn't measured by likes or accolades, but by the depth of their own self-acceptance and the richness of their inner world. And maybe, just maybe that's the secret, the key to everything: to stop performing. To stop living for others, for their judgments or expectations. To stop pretending to be someone you're not just to fit in, to start becoming. To embrace the process of evolution, even when it feels uncomfortable or slow. To give yourself permission to grow into the version of you that's been waiting to be unleashed. To live not for applause, but for truth. To be so in tune with your own authenticity that external praise or criticism doesn't sway you. To choose yourself and your own truth every single day, even when it feels like the world is telling you to be someone else. So, which of these 6 rules resonates with you the most right now? Which one is speaking to you in this moment of your life, guiding you toward a deeper understanding of yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments, or save this for the days when you forget your power. Those days when the noise of the world becomes too loud, when you doubt your worth, or when you feel disconnected from your own truth. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. There is an entire sisterhood of women who are walking the same path, slowly, bravely, and honestly. Every woman at every stage has her own story. But in this story, we are all connected by the shared truth that our worth is inherent and our power is limitless. So no matter where you are today, know this: you are enough. You always have been, and you always will be. Choose yourself, trust your journey, and never forget that you are already exactly who you are meant to be. You are walking your own path, and the world will be better for it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.